All right, let's do it. So the first guy we're going to talk about today, Ethan, is somebody that a lot of people in the comments have been talking about us with for a couple weeks now. And I believe on our last mock draft that we did, somebody else, like one of the first comments that was left, um, was about Carter Bryant, saying the Spurs should draft Carter Bryant, the 6'8" forward from Arizona, with the 15th pick. But I even saw some other people in the comments, Ethan, and I'm not saying that all of the comments are the be all end all. But with that being said, still there were some people saying that they would even be willing to take him at 8. Um, and an
Wow.
interesting thing about that is the Ringer. Let me go ahead and pull this up, not on the screen, but in the background. The Ringer has him graded pretty high in the top 10 as well. Nobody else really has him ranked that high, but there actually are some legitimate basketball sources
Hmm.
the Ringer has him ranked at number 6. Um, I'm not sure how much you've been able to watch of Carter Bryant. Obviously, when you look at the stats, that was the first thing when everybody's mentioning this guy. I'm like, all right, I'm always the guy who kind of says, stats aren't everything, but still, when you see just 6 points, 4 boards, and an assist, and then they're like top 10 pick, there is a little bit that's like, okay, what's going on here? So I was definitely very skeptical going into this, but after I watched his tape, I get it. I actually get why everybody thinks that this would be such a seamless fit. And the reason that I do, and I'm not saying we should get him at number 8, but just at 15, let's just say for the sake of conversation. The reason that I do see why everybody is so high on him and the appeal is that he doesn't need the ball in his hands. Like he plays without the ball on top of being a solid shooter, a 6'8" switchable 3-4, and a 3-and-D guy. But man, he moves off the ball. It's not like he's just stagnant. He impacts like his off ball movement is impactful. So, and I know I was kind of saying that at the beginning. Obviously, he's somebody who doesn't need the ball in his hands, but still, it's like I said, it's not like he's just standing in the corner. He's doing something with intention that's, impacting the spacing or something within the offensive set in a positive way. Not every single possession, but I could go on and on. The Spurs have a lot of ball handlers. We have Wemby, we have Stephon, and we have De'Aaron Fox now. Not only is the 4 and just the wing position, especially a 3-and-D guy, a need for the Spurs, but somebody who doesn't need the ball in their hands is also a need for the Spurs. And that was the biggest thing that I saw from Carter Bryant, on top of him playing for, a blue blood program in Arizona.
Yeah, I do like him. I have watched some tape on him. What I found most interesting is like I checked like 5 different mock drafts, and they were recent mock drafts, like within the last 10 days, and they all have him ranked differently. I had one that had him
Yeah.
as a high second rounder. I think most of them were like low first rounder, like between 20 and 30. And then I had one that ranked him as high as 16, which is 2 picks after the Spurs at 14. Um, I do like his game for every reason that you said. I saw a couple different comparisons, and the one that I liked the most, I'm sorry, I can't remember the website I saw it on, was Trevor Ariza. Because of his build, because of his 3-and-D nature, and he does move very well without the basketball. And I love his overall build, not just like his player, like his
Mm-hmm.
abilities, but like his size, his stature. He's already filled in at 19 years old, or he could be 18. I actually don't know that for sure. Um, and he does play very well without the basketball. My only fear is that I feel like there's just other guys that are better at 14, and maybe we can find somebody with more upside that can provide the same thing at least immediately, um, but also have better, ball handling skills and higher upside in terms of being, a playmaker or whatever that may be. But if at 14 we were to take him, I wouldn't be upset. I just think that this would be the definition of what you're saying, Ju, is we're drafting a guy that we know is going to fit and not take shots away from other people, but still be a marginal improvement down the road over a guy, say like Julian Champagny, who can kind of fill in either as a starter or off the bench and be a floor spacer.
As much as we just talked about this for a whole segment, Ethan, that one more jump up in draft placing for the 14th pick, if
Mhm.
somebody falls, that can be a big difference.
It can be.
But the other thing I'm thinking too is as much as those are both in the lottery, one, like you said, even in the ones that I saw, like I was considering him more at like 15 and 16, kind of outside of the lottery. Um, and obviously, if the Spurs are sold on him and they
Right.
pick him there, then I'll, like I said, I'll take it the same way you did. I'll be like, okay, we're drafting for need, and I'm cool with that, and
Mhm.
especially like long term potential and everything like that because he's a freshman as well. Measy says I like Brian a lot. Um, but yeah, with us moving up in the lottery, especially if one of those lottery picks move up, the realisticness, if that's a word, of him coming to San Antonio may kind of the percentage chance might decrease as both of our picks go higher.
That's 100% true. I think this guys will be interesting to watch as time progresses, especially with the combine. He's a guy that will probably be at the combine. And based on the past couple of weeks with the rise in his stock, if that continues, then maybe this discussion over is it a reach is less prevalent for the Spurs.
For sure. For sure. But we could sit here and talk about this, Ethan. I know we've got the open video here, but trust me, I've got a plan on this one. I swear. Um, Here we go. I'm gonna pull up the Ringers profile of him here, just so we can read a little bit more. And it's not just us, doing our best to kind of give our takeaways from the tape that we've watched. But I wanted to bring up the player comps here. This is kind of what they have for him.
Jordan Walsh.
Yeah, I know. That's wonderful in the middle there. But the Tari Eason and the Aaron Gordon, that's kind of
Oh
what I
yeah.
see. I see a little bit of that, especially because he had a couple putbacks. Obviously, he's not as big as Aaron, but in play style, and then kind of with like almost like an Aaron Gordon with like a Tari Eason frame.
I like the Tari Eason over Aaron Gordon, if I'm being honest, but I could see that.